Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a big morning. Just an hour ago, we got what is potentially the most exciting piece of news yet about the upcoming Jurassic World 3 due in 2021. At a Collider-hosted screening of Jurassic World, Colin Treverrow introduced Laura Dern to the screen, and together they dropped the news that Laura Dern as Ellie Sattler, Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, and Sam Neill as Alan Grant would all be returning to the franchise. I'm going to include that clip right here. Just look at the audience reaction.
Jurassic World 3 in a major role, not a cameo, in the whole movie. Would you like to share anything else with this group?
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have you share this news and be here with all of you. Hi. I love dinosaurs. I love that you love them like we do. And if it's not asking too much, if I'm gonna get to join this party again, I would hate to not bring my friends Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, let's do it, guys. You heard it here first.
So you were the first to hear this, that Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern are returning in major roles in Jurassic World Trilogy.
The key extra bit of information in this clip is actually the words major role. Whilst Owen and Claire are likely to lead the show once again, we should expect more time for the original trio than they gave Ian Malcolm in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So, whilst that's really all the news we have, I'm going to use the rest of this video to review where we last left off with these characters, what were they doing, and what role are they likely to have in the upcoming film. Now, first of all, let's admit what this is. This is a grab at nostalgia to lure in an audience that's a little bit disparaged at parts with the new franchise. And that's okay. Filmmakers want people to come and see their films. I am usually pretty adverse to this tactic, and Malcolm was so underutilized in Fallen Kingdom, it really felt as though he was just there to lure people in through the trailer. But bringing back all three of the original gang and hopefully wrapping up their stories in satisfying ways is, I think, genuinely important to the franchise, and if given the care it deserves, it could be a really cool way to close off this 6-film run before the inevitable reboots or inevitable continuations down the line. The proof is in the pudding for this move. If this is done well, it's going to be brilliant. If it's done badly, then the backlash is going to be immeasurable. People really do like these characters. And let's talk about these characters. Ian Malcolm was the most obvious addition to the film given his role in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and continued presence in the universe at large via Jurassic World Evolution, which we're going to talk about very briefly at the end. In Fallen Kingdom, Ian Malcolm appears before a congressional committee that is trying to decide whether they should save the dinosaurs from Isla Nublar. He is of course against the idea, and he warns the committee that bringing them back would lead to a new era that if we're not careful, they could end up outliving humanity and emerging once more as the dominant archetype. A Jurassic World, essentially. And that's it really. We never get a sense of his backstory or his personal life, and for that we have to return to the end of the Lost World Jurassic Park, where we see him living happily with his daughter Kelly and his girlfriend or future ex Mrs. Malcolm, Sarah Harding. We're still unsure how much Jurassic World 3 will delve into the personal lives of these characters, but I really hope it does. What became of Kelly and Harding? It wouldn't really surprise me if Malcolm and Harding did break up, and he's retained at least a little of that rock star-esque lifestyle he used to espouse, though he did come across as much more serious in Fallen Kingdom. And that is likely how we're going to see him again, on the side of removing these dinosaurs, warning how the small attacks like those seen at Battle at Big Rock are soon to be an endemic problem crossing the globe as more of these companies get into dinosaur production, something that Colin Treverrow has already mentioned. So Ian Malcolm could potentially be for the destruction of these dinosaurs, it wouldn't wholly surprise me. Could this stance see him come into conflict against the always somewhat softer Sattler and Grant? Could we see the three gathered together for a similar hearing, debating the destruction of these creatures and the removal of these creatures? Could we see them attacked? Could we see some actual acting happen? I'd love to see all three of them running away from dinosaurs again, just like the good old days. On to Sattler then, who last appeared in a very brief cameo in Jurassic Park 3, though she did get to save the day by calling in a huge military force in just a handful of hours. We actually know quite a lot about her life thanks to the film and, oddly enough, the Jurassic Park 3 trading cards. So what happened is, essentially, after Jurassic Park, Ellie assumed Alan and her were going to get together. That's definitely where the film ended up, especially given his softening on fatherhood and stuff like that. He really grew to like Lex and Tim. But it didn't happen. Grant's continued obsession with dinosaurs and work meant that Ellie had to look elsewhere for her growing life and want for a family, for a relationship, and she ended up becoming a children's writer, married to a man known as Mark Degler, a State Department employee. Grant remained close with the two and their kid. As we remember, he became the dinosaur man, but Jurassic Park 3 certainly hinted at a tinge of regret between Grant and Sattler that it never quite worked out the way it should have. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in Grant's section, but that's about all we know for Sattler. Will she still be with Mark these 20 or so years later? Will she have more kids or even grandkids, since her Barney-loving child must be in his mid-20s at least by 2021? If ever there was an easy incentive for Sattler to be against the proliferation of dinosaurs across the modern globe, it would be the potential threat that they pose to her family. I can see her siding softer with Ian Malcolm on the issue, potentially advocating for the relocation of the dinosaurs to a new island somewhere. That would handily set up future films if they decided to go back in that direction. I know some people are bored of it, but damn it, I love the islands, okay? That's where Jurassic Park belongs. On one hand, she'll want to protect her family. On the other, Sattler always deeply cared about the dinosaurs, as we saw with her treatment of the Triceratops, and I think she'd be heavily opposed to any harm coming to them at all. Finally, will she still be a children's writer? We never get an idea of what it is she writes per se, but it wouldn't be wholly surprising if dinosaurs were involved, given the context. Finally then, we have Alan Grant. Last seen in Jurassic Park 3 being tricked by the Kirbys and escaping Isla Sorna. When we first meet him in that film, he's still in love with dinosaurs, but only of the very, very dead variety. He's still an active paleontologist, that's not how you spell paleontologist, bad script, working on an underfunded dig with Billy Brennan, but every presentation he gives on the subject ends up with him bombarded with questions about the 1993 incident and the dinosaurs it contained, ones he considers to be theme park monsters rather than real dinosaurs. He's wifeless and childless, and clearly still harbours some form of romantic feelings towards Ellie Sattler, or indeed just the life she's built for herself. Some people really aren't family people at heart. You know, they're married to their work, and that's totally okay. Everyone gets different satisfactions out of life. But Grant's progression in the first film towards fatherhood and softening on these family matters is a little bit destroyed by his position that we see him in Jurassic Park 3, unfortunately. But what will his position in Fallen Kingdom be now that these dinosaurs are everywhere? He will, in my opinion, rather inevitably still be a paleontologist with a dinosaur obsession, but when the dinosaurs were contained to Nublar and Sorna, it was pretty easy to stay in that line of work. After all, the majority of people had no access to these dinosaurs. Now that the dinosaurs are being bred around the globe, they're in theme parks, they are roaming around national parks, the role of a traditional paleontologist would appear to be extinct, basically. I can see Grant sticking to the old ways though. That's always been his way. He's always been hard work and graft and proper, old school paleontology. We see that instantly in the original Jurassic Park with his reluctance to use the new scanning technology. I can imagine him struggling away on what is an essentially unfunded dig, still trying to push the discovery of these buried dinosaur species, these real dinosaurs, whilst shying away from study of the new dinosaurs, the theme park monsters, that have moved into their lives. He, like Malcolm and Sattler, would likely be against the proliferation of these creatures. After all three of them were at least hesitant about the original Jurassic Park when they were together in the restaurant scene. To address his relationship briefly with Sattler, I kinda hope they don't end up together. Don't get me wrong, it would be nice to see, and I hope he does have a very satisfying conclusion and happy ending. I hope he ended up getting married and having kids and all that, because I think that's what Grant at least partially wanted, if he could just tear himself away from his work. But him and Sattler getting back together especially would be the easy and in my opinion slightly pandering route to take. Love is not easy, and it doesn't really end up tied up in neat bows, especially love that is born in disastrous circumstances that tend to force people together even if they don't necessarily belong together. Sattler moved on, she got a husband, a kid, and in reality even when two people seem destined to be with each other, that's not really how life works. Life is messy and love doubly so. I don't want to go too off topic here. I think it would be a more realistic and genuine look at the situation for them to remain apart. Sattler will always wonder, what could have happened, and Grant will always have a tinge of desire for the family life he could have had with her if he could just tear himself away from his work. But he couldn't. All in all, they were fundamentally not meant to be. They've got different priorities. It will be the harder route to write realistically, but I do think it would be the more real one and the more meaningful one. And that's it really, folks. If indeed these characters are getting fully fledged roles in the new film, then I'm certainly more excited for it than I have been in the past. I'm still a little hesitant given the pandering of Ian Malcolm's presence in Fallen Kingdom, but we can wait until we hear more about the roles before deciding either way, or hell, until the film comes out. To close, a little thought I had. We know, or strongly suspect, that Jurassic World Evolution will have a DLC in December focused on the original Jurassic Park 1993. Jeff Goldblum has already reprised his role as Ian Malcolm in the game, so it's always somewhat possible he would return for more voice work. But with Dern and Neil now also returning to the franchise as well, could we possibly see them come back and lend the 1993 DLC that humongous dose of Jurassic Park nostalgia that we kind of wanted to have? Anywho, with all that and announcements of yet more video games, novels and short films to come in the Jurassic World universe, it's a pretty good time to be a fan of the franchise, even if, like me, not necessarily a huge fan of where the films are going. I'm still optimistic about the next one, as I'll ever be. If you enjoyed this video, please consider throwing me a like, and I'll see you lovely folks next time. Cheers much love as always, bye bye. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support me a little bit more, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. There's a link in the description down below. Every little really does help in times like these, but it's not at all expected, and by just watching the video you've already helped me out massively, and it makes you a pretty cool person, so well done you. Thanks for joining me either way, I'll see you next time.